I believe it is Sunday anyway. Um, Good morning. Um, had to sleep early last night because I'm getting up for work. This whole next week I worked at eight in the morning, so that's nice. At least I'll be off early, be able to do stuff. So anyway, um, first off, whoever's partaking, I would like your prayers concerning this relationship that I am endeavoring. Really, really, really awesome lady. I mean, just pray, keep her in prayer, please. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyhow, met her. I think I met her probably. Geez, I met her over a year, about a year and a half. I've known her now. We recently connected again, so God knows. So there you go. It's really sweetheart, real sweetheart. Okay, um, it's odd. Let me give you what I mean, because I was listening to on accident. I leave my TV on at times. The noise. I'm used to noise. If it's real quiet, I wake up. That's so weird. It could be a thunderstorm. It could be all kinds of stuff going on, and I sleep soundly. But when there's no noise, so I have to have a little noise when I sleep. So I leave my TV on. So this morning I come in and there's some guy on there, preacher, if you will. That's what he probably calls himself, pastor or whatever he is. And to me, he sounds just like a irritating noise, an insolent noise. Because it's the same stuff that's produced across every pulpit in America. I'll give it to you. You probably know it by heart, but I'll give it to you. Okay. So you're a sinner, you're lost, you need Jesus, got to accept Jesus. Once you accept Jesus, Jesus will take care of you. And it's like so weird because they have no idea who he is, really. They don't. Just by the way they talk, you can tell, you know. And that's what's sickening to me, you know, because it's not the true gospel. It's not in any way, shape, or form. The gospel is really, really simple and easy. It's really easy. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. So anyway, um, good morning to you all. It's funny because what would really make somebody get take notice if you have someone you care about and they care about you and you had it for a while, then one day you just say, I hate you. That would make the world stop for a second, because of your statement. Anyhow, so I myself hear this stuff, but it's supposed to happen this way. This is what is supposed to happen. Okay, the false gospel that's been produced right now, not of God. Doesn't matter how many churches, buildings there are. It doesn't matter how many people go to those Sunday services. It's not of God. It's the same systematical stuff that's been going on for a long, long time. Okay. Um, I'm going to make it real simple. It's not that I make it simple for you to understand. That's not the reason. But it coincides. Okay, let me say it like this. Being born again coincides with being born in the flesh. It's parallel. You may think that's crazy, but it's the truth. It's the truth. It's funny because they call the miracle of birth exactly that. They call it the miracle of birth. That's what they call it. Take for instance this wonderful lady that her name's Sophia, by the way. Like I said, thank you for keeping the prayer going for this, because she is the most amazing woman I've ever met in a long, 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 long time. I mean, amazing, amazing in respect of just anyhow. If I could describe it, I would. But okay, so let me say it like this. Okay, I like using myself. I can even still smell her right now. It's crazy. But anyway, let me use myself as an example. Okay, so here I am trudging along in my life. You know, dilemmas occurred, situations occurred. I can't put a finger on it. I can't put in, and I'm gonna tell you right now, guys. If anybody that listens to whatever it is that I put on here, one guy even said it. I shared the teaching. He said, "You got a real you." He said, "I'll give that to you." I can't stand when people say that, because what they're saying is this: 90%, 99% of you is crap, but this little 1% that I see, it's kind of nice. Like, dude, just say it straight up. You can't stand me. I appreciate that kind of downfall than anything else. Anyhow, so he said, you really gotta pinpoint on this, on the Bible. You really gotta pinpoint. And I told him, I said, well, shouldn't we all be that way? Shouldn't all of us, you know, how did Jesus say it? He said, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have life, and they are they which testify of me. So, in other words, the scriptures tell us who he is. Okay, okay. So I go and, I have let me say it like this. I do have a pretty good structural idea of how I navigate through life. Okay, I'll give that to you. I do. I'm a guy that will go, and if I don't like something, I leave it alone. For different definitive purpose. I'll say it like this: I deal in absolutes and I deal in definites. That's what I do. That's just the way it is for me. I know people say gray area, people say this, people say that, but for me, it's definites. You know, and if it's not definite from what I was told, I tend to leave it alone. I tend to not um, mess with it, if you will. Anyhow. So here, having that thing. Okay, so I'm trudging along. I'm going along. And I'm trying to find my bearings, guys. I really am. I'm really trying to find, and I'm no better than anyone. I'm no worse than anyone. I'm not none of those things. But trying to find a bearing, trying to find my way, you know. And in certain circles, I'm the coolest dude on the planet. In certain circles, I'm multi-talented. I'm all these things. And in some circles, I'm no good. I'm a con man. I'm, lowest of the low. And those circles aren't too big. I'll tell you that. Church realms, yeah. I'll give it to you in the church realm. In the church realm, I am a heretic. I am accuser of the brethren. I am a discord. I sow discord among the brethren. What else am I? I am a devil, demon, things like this in that realm. Okay, and it's like I said, it just depends on, you know. And I've had both. I've had where, oh, that brother is just like John the Baptist, and the same exact people, not too far down the road, he's a devil. Like this church over here. This is crazy. All right. I'll give you a prime example. You can probably find the preaching on it somewhere. Oh, good morning, by the way. I didn't say good morning, did I? Or maybe I did. Anyway, so I'm here, and like I said, I'm trying to find my bearings. I'm trying to, find something that I can hold on to, you know. because my world was turned upside down at one time. I mean, literally turned upside down. I mean, destroyed. And, trying to find something because, I was the guy with all the answers and now I have no answers. So that's hard. So I'm praying here and God said, well, go to this church. Okay, I'll go to the church. I go to the church and the guy calls me up. He says, I know God has something for you to say. I said, oh, wow. Yeah, sure. So I preached. I literally preached. And when I literally preached, you know, um, at 1 minute, they're like, what the heck is that? I don't even know what that is. At 1 minute, they're like, wow, this guy's just phenomenal and amazing. This guy is just, you know, and the very next minute, maybe not. You know what I mean? Which is amazing, which is, whoa, dude. Anyhow, so, so here, not having that. Okay, so going along, and all of a sudden, something comes across my life that I cannot pinpoint. I can't put a finger on. You know, and I'll tell you, it's gonna. Anyway, let me do this. So I'm going along, blah 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 blah, whatever, and again trying to find my bearings. So then I'm given this absolute, this for me, this definitive absolute. And I'm like, wow, that's different. That's way different. Okay. Um let me show you what I mean. So I'm not a very bright guy. I said that before. I'm not a very bright guy. I'm not very I can be the biggest baby on the planet. I'll say it like that. I don't want to take anyone down with me. I don't want that. I never wanted that. In other words, if I'm in destruction, I'll tell people, go over there because I'm jacked up or I'm messed up right now. I don't want to take you down with me. That kind of thing. I would never ever want that to happen ever. You know. Sometimes it happens though. Sometimes things occur. You know. Anyhow, oh, that's good coffee. So I go and I go and I meet someone. You know, and then I see him again, and my world just stops. My world freezes. You know, I'm happy inside. Not 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 being happy because that's the way it's supposed to be, or not being happy because I got this. Let me give you an example. So I'm living in stupidity. I'm living in stupidity like you would not believe, and I see it. That's the worst part. I can actually see the stupidity myself. I can look at it and go, "That's pretty stupid, bro." Don't bear with me. I won't get into it. In other words, none of you know me personally, so I won't get into super details. You know, um, if you knew me personally, then I'd be able to just do that. But anyway, so I'm in this room, and I'm like, "Come on, God, what's going on here?" Now, I don't want to live homeless. I don't want to live on the streets. I don't. It's terrible. It's. What's really funny though, and I thought about this. If I had a chance to invest $10,000 and make $100,000, and I had to sleep on the streets for 6 months, I would do it. Isn't that wild? I don't want to do it, but if I had that opportunity, I would do it, and it would almost be bearable. Isn't that wild? It reminds me of that time when I would do Bible studies with inmates, convicts in the prisons and the jails. And one of the convicts, told me, he said, the Bible is beautiful. He said, the Bible is wonderful. I love the Bible. Who doesn't love the Bible, right? And he said to me, he said, there's just one thing I can't do. I said, what's that? He said, I'll do whatever it says, but there's just one thing that I cannot do. I said, well, what is that? He said, I can't turn the other cheek. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you know how Jesus said, um, if someone smacks you on the right cheek, offer him the other also. He said, I can't do that because that's a punk move. And if you're offended by the word punk, I apologize, but that's what he said. He said, that's a punk move. If I allow that to happen, people are going to dominate me. People are going to, so I'll never do that. I'll never turn the other cheek. I cannot do that. I said, okay, cool. I understand. I totally understand. I said, let me ask you something. And he looked at me. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, let me ask you something. Now, I understand you don't want to be a punk. You don't want to be somebody that's taken advantage of. You want to be a man, blah, blah, blah. I said, but let me ask you this. What if they offered you $10,000 to slap the other cheek? He said, well, that's different. I said, wait a minute. 1 minute you're saying no. Now for $10,000, you say yes. Don't tell me that you can't do it. Obviously, you can. There you go. And so here it would almost make it, or even the lady Sophia, if I had to sleep on the floor for 6 months to marry her, I'd sleep on the ground for 6 months to marry her. I would in a heartbeat. There's no question about it, and I'd gladly do it. That I guess that ground would be a feather bed. Anyhow, you get what I'm saying? Okay. So as the life structures on, now I'm gonna share this with you. I am selfish. I want the best of the best. I, I want to travel in $100,000 car. I want to live in a loft. I'm actually looking at these hills up here, thinking once I make my monies, I'm going to build a house up there. I just want it with a big window, and man, I have all these ambitions. Okay, and it's so funny because even the bare minimum that I still have. Like I have let me show you my little studio. I'm going to show you my little studio just to give you an example of what I've got. Okay, this is my little studio here. I know it's not great and everything, but it's my little studio. Here's my beadworking table right here. It's not great, but it's what I have. There's my wardrobe. There's my antique. I don't know if you can see it. My antique. I bought that. I actually wheeled that down here. That is my antique dresser. Should have. I'm gonna get a mirror for it in the background. But this is my humble abode. I do like what I have, and I don't know why I like antiques. I got an antique sewing machine, actually two. I'm gonna sew one thing at a time, though. Right. Let me see what time it is. I don't want to waste too much time babbling. 17:50. Okay, so here, it's the small things. Okay, now I totally don't understand the stuff that occurs in respect of, okay, oh no, let me go back to this. I'm selfish. I am, I want it my way. I want to get mad at God and say, why do you put me through this? It's like a game because I do what you want. And then I got to take 2 steps back and try to do it again and blah, blah, blah. I got all these ideas, but I'm going to tell you right now, when I look at it as it is, not one time has he ever failed me. Not one time. Oh, so I'm in the balance. I'm hanging in the balance. It was last year for a month. I'm in the balance, and I'm like, okay, God, I need this job that's coming up. I need it. I need to pay my rent. I don't want to live on the streets. I need food. I need clothing. I need all this. I pay my bills. Blah blah blah. And I got the job. I literally got the job, and then I transitioned over to another part, and now I'm transitioning to another part again. But see, that's the promises that God gives to us, you and I. We don't do something to get something. I'm sorry, that's what religion teaches. That is not true. No. What happens is, now don't get me wrong. Oh my, for a minute there, I think it was 2 or 3 months. Let me see, October, November, December. Yeah, December. I'd say about January. So 3 months, no, October, November, December, 2.5 months. I was doing something I hated. I was literally doing something I hated. I hated it with a passion. I hated it with vigor. I hated it with every ounce in me. And it's so odd because right here in the back over here, I heard that little whisper. Well, if God didn't want you there, you wouldn't be there. If God didn't want you in this situation. Okay, now I'm a good runner. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a good runner. I'm a good hider. I'm a good accuser. I'm a good, blame the situation. I'm good at that. I am a master at that stuff. Then licking my wounds and feeling bad for myself and all that other stuff. I do that too. Okay. But all of a sudden, it's like a shift. And I can't explain it. I mean, I'm not lying, man. When I was around this girl, like a kid in a candy store, like giddy, I can't explain it. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Come on, Charles, buck up, grab your bearings, all that stuff. And I couldn't. I literally just engulfed myself in the moment. We were together. We were in each other's company for 5 hours, 4 hours, something like that, 3.5 hours, 4 hours. But it was the most enjoyable time that I've ever had. Honestly, it was the most, you know, honestly, and that's the truth. I know a lot of people would say, well, what about happened there? And I could explain it. I would, if I could explain and put it in a nice sentence of what happened, and I'm not, like I told you, I'm not a very bright man. Like I said, you don't know me personally. You never sat across my table and drank coffee with me, so I won't go into detail. I just don't, you know. And so here, there's a few friends that I have that I really respect and love, you know. Anyhow, let me get back to this now. Watch this. And so here, this whole thing just did that to me. This whole thing just kind of did that to me. And now I'm here at this moment in time. Okay. The reason I shared all that is to give you this. Okay. Um, of course we know this. We state it, but God always knows what He's doing. Always. There's not a time that He doesn't know what He's doing. And I'm going to say it right now. 99% of what you believe is God is not God. I'm going to tell you that straight up. I don't mean to step on your whatever it is you have, whatever it is you do, whatever it is that's going on. But 99% of what's out there is not. It's not God. I'm not saying that it's not good. I'm not going to say that because there's stuff out there that looks good, tastes good, feels good, works good. But in the end, it's not God. I'll say it like that. Okay, so here the structure of what God did, all right, like I told you before, and I say this by God's grace, it's parallel to being born in the flesh. That's what it is. Okay, so let me give you an example. So I meet this lady. I can't describe what went on. I can't describe how this all occurred because I hadn't seen her in 7 months. Then one night I see her and I'm like, oh my God, there she is. Holy cow. And I grab her and I hug her and she hugs me for a while. And then later on I text her and say, I want to see you tomorrow. She comes and we see each other, blah, 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 And what tripped me out is she came by herself. She didn't come with nobody. I ain't seen her in 7 months. She shows up where I asked her to meet up. And there she is. And there I am with nobody else around. I mean, there's other people there, but and let me get back to this. Okay. So let me say this to you. Okay. Let me give this to you. Okay. You are anybody listening right now. You do have ears. You do have eyes. You're seeing the video. You do have a body because you're sitting or you're standing or you're laying down, whatever it is you're doing. you have the attributes of physicality, if there's such a word, of the physical. So you have eyes to see and you have ears to hear. Okay. That occurred, and I'm going to say it straight up. You can argue all you want, but you cannot argue this without your permission. What do I mean by that? Okay. Previous to you, there was two people that had met, your mother and your father. They met. Somehow they met. Somehow they, there was attraction. There was a spark. Some of us, it was a bar scene. So there was alcohol involved, like my parents. My parents met in a bar, you know. I got the picture, well, had the picture. My kids probably have it now, but there was a bar scene, and that's where my mom and dad met, and as a result, the first three siblings were born with FAS, which is fetal alcohol syndrome. The last two, which is me and my younger brother, weren't. So my other three siblings, the older ones, have a little mental incapacity. They do. I feel bad for them. I never understood it before. But later on, I understood. I understood because they had FAS, And then I guess my mom realizing, well, these kids were born sick. The next one was born preemie. I shouldn't drink with these two in my bellies, which was me and my younger brother, which was nice. So anyway, other times it's other things that occur, and you're here now. You're here as that result. But you had no power over them meeting. You had no power over them mating. You had no power over you conceiving. You had no power over you coming out of the womb. You had no power with your first few years on earth. Now imagine that. No power, no power, no power, no power, no power. Isn't that wild? I mean, you can't argue that. You cannot argue that. Not one of you. I don't care how smart you are. It doesn't matter how, because a lot of times things kick in where people go, you can't tell me nothing. I'm this. Okay, fine. But you're this at one time was this. No power. Okay. For the first 5 years, still no power. For your first 5 years on earth, no power. You can't even remember when you were 9 months old. You can't even remember what I do. So wild I do. You can't even remember when you were 2 months old or 1 week old. Isn't that wild? You have no power. Okay. What occurs is, and this is what's intense. Okay. Because once we partook of the flesh, once we were born in the flesh is described good. I'm going to go over it with you. I got to do this because it's here. So I'm going to do it. Okay, watch this. So the forgive me. Okay. Okay. So once you're born in the flesh, okay, like I said, they're parallel. Being born again runs parallel with being born in the flesh. Period. There's no way outside of that. The structure from religion is, okay, you figure you're a no good sinner. You end up at a church, people invite you, what have you. You go there, you hear some words, you make a decision, you become a Christian, and you attend services, and you do better in your life, blah, blah, blah. See, that's not the gospel. I'm sorry, it's not. Don't get me wrong now. Some of you have actually changed your lives as a result. There's no question about it. Some of you have felt good. There's no question about it. Some of you have, had tremendous things happen. There's no question about that. Okay. But there's a difference between being born again here and assuming you're born again here. That's the difference. Okay. Because works of the flesh or manifestation of evidence to prove that you were accepted or accepted Christ and all that other junk they put out there is not of God. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove it. Give me a second. Let's deal with the first aspect. All right. Remember, they run parallel. So let's say this is the physical, this is the spiritual. I'm going to give you the parallel, meaning they run the same, exactly the same. Okay, watch this. So when someone is born in the flesh, you can look this up for yourself. It's not only here, it's in the Old Testament as well. But let's look at it. Chapter 3, verse 10. Here's what it says. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. That's just the way it is. Not one. Okay. Now I know, because you'll get into the script of children. Well, children are innocent. No, that's not what that says here. There is none righteous, no, not one. So then your argument will do this. Here's what your argument will say. Your argument will say, well, they've never committed any sins. How can a child murder someone? How can a child lie? A one-day-old baby. See, that's the thing about it, folks. That's where religion seeps in to deceive you. Okay? That's why in Romans, again, it says, that which is born in the flesh is flesh. See? That which is flesh is flesh. I'm sure Ted Bundy was a one-day-old baby at one time. Now, if anybody could see his future attributes, most people would chop that baby's head off. Okay? That's just the way it is. Watch this. Watch this. I got to say it. You do not commit sin to become a sinner. You commit sin because you are a sinner. And the way to be a sinner is to be born in the flesh. Period. From Adam. Period. Okay? The flesh is what it is. Watch this. There is none that understandeth. This is the description. Excuse me. There is none righteous, no, not one. Yes, even your little innocent baby that you claim, because what you're saying is you're going against this, because you're saying, well, once they get knowledge, once they get the age of enlightenment, or the age, of being able to do stuff, then they're accountable. The age of accountability, that's what they call it. Not true. Not true. Okay, I'm going to get to that. Don't worry. I know, because then you'll get into, well, does that mean babies are in hell? Let's not go that far. Let's just deal with this side of life right now. That's where we're at. So let's deal with it. Okay, good. There is none righteous, no, not one. There is none that understands. They don't understand at all. It's funny, because I experience, as much as people, let me give you like this. I'm going to give it to you like this. Now, today, it's wishy-washy. This is what I believe 100% and know it to be true. Okay. They used to say, I changed that, but they used to say marriage is 50-50. And I tell them, no, it's not. Marriage is not 50-50, or partnerships are, no. It's 100-100. Now, if you hold true to the old idea of love, which I do 100%, the old idea of true love, no matter what, it will happen, regardless of what mountains are there, what have you. Anyhow, if you believe that old idea, I love it, and I do 100%. Okay, if you love somebody and they love you, and you love them 100%, and they love you 99%, what's going to stick out? The 1% they don't. It's going to kill the 99. So all or nothing. You see what I'm saying? So when you get down to this, when it comes to your belief, do you really believe what you're believing? Because if you believe what you're believing, any situation that comes at you, you're going to, I'm not saying stubbornness now. There's some stubbornness out there, and people will die for stubbornness. I've seen it. I've seen people, like I was pastoring this church in Tacoma. And when I pastored this church in Tacoma, the gentleman told me, the owner of the building, it's closed now. The church is gone. It's gone. But this gentleman told me that he said, yeah, we started out with 150 members, and now we're down to 7. He said, but we remain faithful. First thought that came to me was, well, there's a fine line between faithfulness and stubbornness. you know, my way or the highway, that kind of thing. Okay. So people will profess stuff, but then it comes down to the fine wire. Well, let's test your belief out. Let's see if you really believe in it. And I don't care who it is, don't really believe what they're saying. They like the nice points of it, but then the belief says, hey, let's do this. Well, I can't do that. Why not? You say you believe in it. Honestly, I've witnessed that many, many times. Okay, watch this. There is none that understands. And really, we don't. Literally don't. Now, here's the thing. This is what is amazing about God. This is what I always loved about God. I'm going to give you an example. He gave it to me, so I'm going to give it to you. Okay. So when this hit me big, I'm at work. There's more to it, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to give you what he gave me. I'm at work, and I am thinking of my lady, Sophia. I'm thinking of her. I'm thinking how wonderful she is, and her smile, and her eyes, and her hair, and her little mannerisms. So weird. Anyway, as I'm thinking on this, scripture comes to me. And, I always thought, well, God, because everybody talks about the rib, when God took the rib out of man and made woman. I said, why a rib, Lord? Why just a rib? And I tried to come up with it. Watch this. I'm going to show you why the rib. He gave it to me there. Well, if you notice something, the ribs, what do? They protect the vital organs, the heart, the lungs. They protect the vital organs. They're over, if you will. Hello. In other words, the ribs being the strongest part of the body. You see what I'm saying? Isn't that wild? And so here, I had to kill something real fast. Bastards, I gotta get some more stuff here. Anyway, and so here, that blew my mind. And then it opened up to other things. There's a lot more teachings on that, which makes women the most vital part of everything. And that's what's sad to me. They don't realize their role. They don't. They really don't. They're trying to vie for equality, not realizing they are, in fact, the structure, that protects all the vital things that keep the body alive. Think about that. Anyway, it'll go into more detail. That was, anyway, let me go ahead. Okay. There's none that understands. Okay. So far, we got a pretty good makeup. There is none righteous, no, not one. There is none that understands. Watch this. There is none that seek after God. They are all gone out of the way. They are together become unprofitable. What does that mean by that? Well, Jesus gave us a little inkling of it. He said, what would it profit for a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? Isn't that wild? Which means any effort that a man does, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, you got this guy right now, the tyrants or what have you, that are making a show and doing all those other things. But it's going to go nowhere. I'm dead serious. Not because someone's going to rise up and destroy them. Not because, no, because their efforts are unprofitable. Honestly, that is the bottom line truth. There's no fight that needs to happen. You know what I mean? Anyway, watch this. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Now, you might think to yourself, well, I do a little good. I do a little something nice. I do a little bit of, watch this. When it says, there is none that doeth good, it's not saying there is none that doeth good, not at all. It's not saying that. What it's saying is this: Any good you or I can do doesn't mean anything if we override it with what's not good. What do I mean by that? Okay, one cannot kiss somebody 9 times, slap them once, and say the 9 kisses cover the one slap. It ain't going to happen. You see what I'm saying now? So any good effort that we do is destroyed by the bad efforts. Hello. You get what I'm saying now? In other words, all the good that we can do doesn't mean anything because it's overwritten by whatever it is. Come on. Okay. I'm not saying don't do good. I'm not saying that. Okay. Their throat is an open sepulcher. In other words, it's all death. All of it. Listen to the conversation. Listen to yourself speak one time. Just try it. Listen to the words coming out of your own mouth. Hello. I experienced this one time with one of my relatives. I'm sharing the word, and I'm not talking to the person. I'm talking to another relative. And this person came over and just started bailing, dumping on me. Well, who do you think you are? You think you're better than everybody? Just went into this big tangent. And I sat and listened. I said, well, ma'am, and I told her, I said, this is America. Being that this is America, we can either allow free speech or you can tell me to be quiet. We'll be quiet. Okay. I closed my Bible and I shut up. All of a sudden, everybody that was listening said, why did you do that to him? He wasn't bothering anybody. He wasn't, Then she tried to justify why she told me to be quiet for about an hour because she knew she wasn't in the realm of right. Okay. With their tongues, with their tongues, they have used deceit. The poison of asps is under their lip. James hints on that. James hints on that by saying, the tongue is an unruly evil. He go. Let me read it. Let me read it. I'll read it. I don't want to not read it. Let me read it real quick here. I'll read about what James says pertaining to the tongue. Excuse me. Here's what it says. Excuse me. My brethren. No, not there. Okay, here's what it says. Oh, yeah, let's start at 3:1. My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths, that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. Excuse me. For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceeded blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Pretty good, right? Okay, let's go back here now. Whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Now, as I went through these scriptures here, would you trust someone in that condition to make a sound choice? Of course not. Of course you wouldn't. If they don't understand, they ain't going to be able to see truth. They ain't going to be able to see freedom. You know, if their mouth is full of cursing, if they're bitter, all this is mankind in his entirety. Again, parallel. That's the flesh. Parallel. That is the flesh. Okay? And again, it happens without your say so. You did not tell your parents to make you. Now, you might tell yourself, here's your little argument that you'll give. Well, that hasn't one thing to do with the other. I'm a Christian. I'm a churchgoer. I'm whatever you, Pentecostal, Baptist, non-denominational, whatever you want to call yourself, non-affiliated, whatever. You try to separate. No, they run parallel. They are exactly the same thing that happened. Okay. Now here's the thing I want to give you. I'm almost. Let's see, we're at 45 minutes. We got 15 minutes. Here's what I want to give you. Here's what I want to share with you, if you will. Okay. Again, it's confusing because again, we were told all this. Let me give you an example. Okay. I never spanked my kids. I never did. Never touched them. Never laid a belt on them. Never, Now, most of you Christians, churchgoers, whatever you want to call yourselves, I didn't get it for a chair. This wasn't. Well, it's nice, but it's not as comfortable as this one I saw. I'm going to get it. It's $100. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I will get it, but never mind that. So, what does they spare the rod, spoil the child? That's what it says, right? What else? Well, let me tell you something, folks. When Moses was leading the children of Israel out of Egypt, he used a rod. That's what he used, a rod. Tell me one time he hit a child of God with it. Not one time. See, rod doesn't mean beating. Rod represents truth. If you follow truth, that's worse than any kind of beating ever. Not for you. But I'm talking about where people go, whoa, don't mess with that dude, man. I remember this. So on my dad's side of the family, they're all pretty stinking religious. On my mom's side, too, that's so wild. Both sides were religious. Both sides went to church. My mom's side and my dad's side both went to church. And so here you've got all these ideas, all these things, all these stuff that was handed down generation to generation. A lot of it, again, is not true. A lot of it is not what God intended. Okay. But you got all this going on, all this happening. So raised in that realm, raised in that idea, raised in that stuff, you tend to pick up on it a little bit. You tend to go, okay, well, that makes sense. I'll do that. Or that makes sense. I'll do this. Or whatever it might be, whatever it is, that's what went on. And so here, excuse me, give me a second. Having grown up in those ideas, you tend to follow them. You tend to want to adopt it because it's something that you have. You know what I mean? Really. Praying, for one instance, I hated prayer. I'm going to tell you straight up. I hated it, and I'll tell you why. So my dad, oh my God, he used to beat the heck out of us. He used to beat the heck out of us. I always tell people, if spanking worked, I'd either be the president or the Pope. It didn't work. Tell me how to be sneakier. Anyhow. I never touched my kids in that respect, not once. Going back to the rod, going back to the idea of teaching, going back to the idea of it's truth. You see, it's truth, And so here, my kids listened. because kids tend to do that. But what I found out is kids follow action more than they follow words. Period. You know. Anyhow, been a hard sale for me. Because there's certain aspects of the Bible that I did not like. You know. So let me get back to prayer. My dad made us pray instead of beating us. So of course we had to pray, and then he may force us to pray. You know, he'd go, and that's what's sad about it. He would go and he'd do some stupid stuff. He felt sorry. He wanted to lick his wounds, so he'd make us pray with him. Now, most of you religious people say, "Well, that's not a bad thing. That's not, prayer is good no matter what." Well, let me tell you something. Being forced to do something, you tend to not like it later on. Okay. Being forced to do something makes you think, well, this can't be good if I'm forced to do it. You see. Anyhow, so never did that with my kids. Never, like I told you, and I'm saying this by God's grace, but I never forced them to pray. I never forced them to read the Bible. I never forced them to anything. And they did it on their own. My daughters would literally go to school, and if their friends were hurting, they would pray with their friends. Honestly, my daughters, my sons would read the Word of God, the Bible. It's so wild. On their own. I remember when my two oldest ones were born again on their own, not anything to do with me. It was amazing because their mother would say, and I anyway, she would want them to be born again. And one day I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking, I believe. I love to cook. I'm cooking, and the oldest, my daughter Jasmine, comes in and she says, "Dad," I said, "What's up?" And I have, she has her Bible. I said, "What does this mean?" And I said, okay. So we went from where she read, and she got born again. My son, we were down the road. He got born again, just out of nowhere. But that's what God promises. Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved in thy house. Okay. Anyhow, going back to this now. So the parallel, if you will, equality of being born in the flesh coincides with, I'm gonna get into it. Because like I said before, you will tell yourself when one has not, no one has exactly the same one that made birth in the flesh, which is God. God is the one that made sexual intercourse. He made the reproductive organs for that to happen. Is the same one that caused us to be born again in the spirit in the same manner. Believe it or not, I'm going to show you. So having this realm or understanding this right here, what we just read, okay. So what happens is this, because again, I'm not going to say that you're not a dedicated churchgoer, and then you read that one. That's the only one you got, by the way. Forsake not the assembly. So you translate that as go to church on Sunday. I'm sorry, but that's not what that means. I'll get into it. Don't worry. Okay. And I'm not saying don't go to church. By all means, continue with your habitual, how do I say it? Habit. Don't get me wrong. I got into the habit too. I felt uncomfortable on Sundays sometimes when I wasn't in church. Not anymore. I'm glad not to go there. Pathetic place. Anyway, sorry. Talking about the structure. I'm not talking about the heart, because you are the temple of God according to scripture. Okay. Stop. Okay. So here, by God's grace, you've got all these dedicated, and it's been going on from day one. I mean, Israel for sure on the Sabbath, we got to meet up, we got to do certain things, we got to be this way, we got to be that way. The priests come in. I mean, they got the structure like you wouldn't believe. And then, of course, on this realm, they adopted it as well. The same structure, a building, an area that's supposed to be holy, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And, it's so funny. Oh, stop. Okay, what? Anyhow, so here, having no power to be born in the flesh, what really occurred then? Because again, if we have no power over anything, why is it that we get blamed for everything? If we have no power, if that's the way it's supposed to be, then why? I'm going to give it to you. Give me a second. Okay, so we read Romans 3:10. Now, let me see. I don't want to go too far because we'll have 55 minutes. We'll start on that one. So we're going to go over here to John. Okay, we're going to go to John. We just read, there is none that understand it. There is none. And I don't have to go any deeper than that because that's the portrayal of the flesh. Okay, that is the portrayal. And this is how powerful and amazing God is. This is how he has everything in his hand and knows how to handle it, because don't get me wrong now, things seem chaotic. They do. They really, really do. They seem out of hand. They seem messed up. They seem just all together beat up, shot, no good, horrible, blah, 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 blah. You name it, it's there. I'm going to say it like that. Yet, in all that, he still has it where he is. Yeah, he's got it. He's got it. I remember I'd hear people tell me and they'd say, I just don't feel like a Christian. I say, good. It's not based on feeling. It's not based on what we do or don't do. It's based on what he says. Okay. So we'll get in. Well, let me do this later. I'm going to do this later tonight. Because I don't want to go too far with it and then they cut it off short. Anyhow, God bless. Have a great Sunday today. I'm going to do some artwork today. I'm going to do other things. We'll talk later. Have a good day.